I'm going to spotlight myself and we're going to jump right in. But I hope you guys have had a good week. Today, we're going to talk about the 3 levels of roofing businesses that we've identified that we kind of see as the main kind of sections of growing and progressing from everything relying on you to the team running the show and you as the owner getting to just focus on more strategic growth initiatives and fun stuff like that. So make sure that if you're here live, try to take some notes or something. It's going to be helpful, and we're going to try to just give some good little ways to jump to the next level. And I'm going to try to keep it practical and easy to work on. Sorry, it's all fly there. So let's rock and roll. Here we go. So level 1, we already talked about this. Like if you read the post, you kind of have gathered and been able to go through some of these. But level 1 is where a lot of people end up. And level 1 is probably the most difficult section to get out of. And the best way to describe the level 1 roofing business is you're in a situation where the entire business relies squarely on you. And that doesn't even mean that you don't have a team. You might have a salesperson or two. That might mean you have an admin, but nothing gets done without it crossing your desk. Nothing gets done without you putting your hands on it. And it really is tough. Emotionally, it's tough on your family. It's tough to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like it's a situation where once you're here, it begins really to wear on you after a while. And as you're in this situation, like the longer you stay here, the harder it is to get out, which is just a unfortunate fact. It's kind of like sinking sand, because as you're in this situation where everything is really relying on you, you're closing almost every deal, you're have your hands on every bit of paperwork that needs to go through. The longer you stay there, the more habits you build, even the more you grow your business, the harder it is to reverse engineer what's working and what needs to be delegated, and the busier you get. And when you get busier and busier and busier, you have less time to hire the team and work on the strategic things that the business really needs. So if you've ever read the book 10x is easier than 2x, if you haven't, I suggest it. Very good book. It's by someone named Dan Sullivan. And the premise is thinking just as a 2x thinker would be, I just have to work harder. I just have to be in a situation where if I don't work hard, things don't change. If I don't put myself in a situation where I'm just always pushing, then you can't do anything. And a lot of the time when you're in this position, like when you first start your business, you're working hard. Like that is kind of the peak of when you're working hard. And then if you did things right, you're in a situation where more and more of the growth just means more and more workload. And so growing and scaling kind of sucks, frankly. Like just to, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This situation, like growing sucks. Why? Because every new job means more work to do. And you may be in a situation where you have no pipeline, or where you have an overwhelming number of people who need you in your pipeline. It doesn't really matter. Like some people, leads kind of feels like it's the main issue. Some people in this situation feel like the main issue is more, I have a lot of work. I'm doing a lot, but everything kind of relies on me. It's hard to get to everybody. I'm struggling with communication. I'm struggling with delegating. I want to hire a team, but I maybe don't trust that they're going to do as well as I do. So I'm just going to kind of stay where I'm at. I'm going to pause. And like I said, you just get stuck when you're in this mode. Oh, there we go. It's back. So level one, I'm going to go through the levels real quick, and then we're going to talk about how to get out of them. These next ones will be faster because they're just a little bit less chaotic. Life begins to get easier when you move to level two. Level two is your business is growing. Things are beginning to stabilize. You've finally somehow carved out time to begin developing the processes. You have a team. So at this point, you're likely not putting your contracts, like you're probably not putting your proposals together yourself. You most likely have someone answering the phone for you. You probably have a salesperson or two that is able to take the load off and run some of the leads. And you get to the point a lot of days where really you get to kind of sit and work from the office and just kind of manage. Now, this is a fine place to be. And in fact, like if you're here and you never grow further, I don't think that's what I would want to do, but you're not in a bad position. The only problem here is you do still have a job. And so you're going to have leads coming in. You're going to have a more consistent sales. You're still kind of going to be going up likely. And your business doesn't feel like it's going to collapse. But here's where things get hard. The hardest part at this phase is salespeople turnover a lot. So equals constant recruiting. If the salespeople aren't turning over, salespeople rely on you a lot. So this might just be micromanaging, but they might even be almost asking you to micromanage them. And this might be a situation where you're reliant on external factors. So you can get to level two because a storm came. You can get to level two because you started generating good leads. You started generating good leads on whatever, right? Like Facebook, pay-per-click, SEO, Angie's, I don't care. So like this stuff isn't bad. You can get to this level from maybe even just like knocking doors. Still, most likely going to be a lot of turnover and struggle with salespeople. But I'll tell you the most common way people get here. And if you think you're about to be safe from the woes of level two, this one will probably get you. You can get here by being a good dude slash dudette if you're a woman, which means you get a lot of referrals. Now, I love referrals. I think referrals are among the best ways to grow a roofing business. I think that referrals are amazing. They close at a higher rate. They're easier to work with a lot of the time. They trust you. The sales process is shortened. There's so many good things about referrals. The problem here, though, often is the referrals are not created in a repeatable, clear way. So typically, the owner is the reason they get referrals, and salespeople just run them. Not a bad place to be. Like I said, you can get here and be fine. But you still, as the owner, remain the bottleneck. So at this point, you can go on a vacation, but can't put your phone down. So, like I said, you can stay here forever and you'll probably be fine. But it can be a struggle. It's not necessarily like the place you want to be. And because it's not the place you want to be, unless you just like work and you love this and you don't really want to be in a situation where you ever don't have a job. And at level 3, you don't just stop working, you just get to have a little bit more choices. But this level 2 is a lot is off your plate, but a lot still relies on you. And in addition to a lot still relying on you, you don't really have great control because you can't control your time, because you can't control a lot of things. In general, if you don't step in, if you don't keep working, if you don't keep answering questions, if you don't keep making sure that things are set up properly and operating properly, the further away you get from the business, the more things will slowly taper off and the business will start to dry up, the salespeople will start to get unhappy, etc. So that's level 2. Not as bad as level 1, but it's a tricky level because it can be more torturous almost because you thought you made it for a while until you realize you didn't. Now we'll talk about level 3. This is where most of us want to go. And I want to make one quick note. There's a reason I don't have revenue levels here. I've seen a level 1 roofing business that's doing $4 or $5 million a year. The owner is an absolute like intense, like, oh man, they're working like crazy, but it happens, exists. There's actually probably a good amount of these. It's rare. The person has like an incredibly high work ethic, probably an incredibly high stress tolerance, but they're crumbling inside. Everyone I've come across. But then also there's the people that are at 1,800,000, 750,000, are kind of like just getting started and they're going to be here. And like I said, the longer you stay here, the harder. So that 4 million or $5 million roofing company, that is level 1. That person is significantly more stuck than the person who started their company 6 months ago who's still at level 1. Because this has created and become an absolute beast that if they step away from for even a few days, everything can halt really, really quickly. Level 2, this can be a $20 million roofing company or it can be a $800,000 roofing company. Generally, I would say like 1 to 5 million is where most people end up in this level, but it can vary. These are just more qualities. They're not, this is how much sales you're doing. And I encourage you to think about your business in bigger terms than just sales because it is more than that. As much as we want money to be the best motivator ever, if money was as good of a motivator as we'd like it to be, every single one of us would not be on this call and we'd be knocking doors. Or we'd be that guy that climbs up the like 1,000-foot pole to change the light bulb in all over the country. Like there's a lot of different things that we could do if it was purely about money, but it's just not. Time matters a lot. Family matters a lot, especially to me. I'd imagine a lot of people on this call. So level 2, like your family still is being robbed a little bit at level 2. And I'll tell you, like level 3 is when things actually start flowing in a way that you're not completely dependent, or like that the business doesn't completely depend on you. And this really only happens by getting obsessed with processes, obsessed with the why behind the processes. So you have to create an actual culture here. And I'm not saying culture is just something you can like wave a wand and create. But what I am saying is culture is incredibly important and culture is from the top down. Once again, if you're stuck at level one and then you start hiring a team, the culture is probably going to drip down because you're absolutely exhausted, freaking out all the time, anxious, tired, maybe short, like with others, like in your responses. Level two, you probably can begin forming a pretty good culture. You can probably remain pretty cool for the most part. And that's why it's easier to get from level two to level three than it is to get from level one to level two. Level one to level two is the hardest jump. But level three is really just about how can we make sure that this business is operating like a machine? Now, does level three mean you are not required? No. You still have a role to play within your company at this point. But your role is more strategic direction than it is micromanaging. Your role is more building the team and getting things organized. In this situation, you could live in a different city relatively easily. I'm not sure you'd want to, and I'm not sure that might affect the culture in a specific, like that might not be ideal for the culture, but it matters. So let's go back to culture and why culture matters in the level three. Culture really is a result of like what's the living and breathing like goals of the company. Like I don't like the hustle culture. If someone says like their culture is like outwork your bad days, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, but I do think that that doesn't necessarily benefit the homeowners directly. My philosophy on a good culture is your culture should directly benefit and impact your clients. It should be less about how great your company is to work for. It should be less about how everyone gets together on the weekends. It should be more about what are the things that are bigger than all of us that we stand for. A great culture would be we want to make sure that every single person who interacts with our company and brand is better for it. We want to make sure that we put our customers and anyone impacted by the roofing projects first. And we want to do that in a way that is genuine and authentic. And if someone comes into our business and that's not their goal and they're just here for the money, then they can walk out the door because we don't want them and our culture is going to choke them out anyways. That's what a good culture can do. And this is where the culture and processes and team, for the most part, are able to keep the company going. Where if you died as the owner, the business would be able to continue to operate and someone would be able to take your seat and the culture would continue so long as they don't completely change the entire way everything is run. Culture has a life of its own. It's hard to kill. Not impossible to kill, but it's hard to kill as long as it's authentic to everybody. If the if you as the owner authentically want everyone to be impacted in a positive way that interacts with your company and you have some strategic ways of making sure that happens and people are being held accountable not just to a process but to a culture, that is a very, very powerful position to be in as the owner of a roofing company. So we want to talk about how to navigate these levels, right? The big thing is to know what you're aiming for. So if you're at level one and you're in the weeds and you're stuck and you're scared and your spouse is mad at you and you're struggling, one, we see you and it's okay. Two, you need to know what's possible, because right now you may be in a situation where clarity feels like a rumor. It doesn't seem like it's possible to really see the future. I think there's a phrase, and if I butcher it, excuse me, but it's like you can't see the forest through the trees. Or maybe you can't see the trees through the forest. That's why I said, excuse me if I butcher it. But the point is, like, that is a situation where, honestly, if you're here and you feel like you're stuck here, you need to have a vision. And if you have a vision, and if you can't have a vision, you need to try to find someone that can grab you by the shoulders and shake you out of the rut you're in and clear a path to where you can begin believing again in what's possible. Because you didn't start your business to be here. You really didn't. And you need to remind yourself that you're worthy of going to level 2 and moving, and you're worthy and you're capable of being a leader that could facilitate a level 3 type of company, to have a level 3 type of culture. So mindset matters. And I don't care if I lose some of y'all as I talk about that. If you don't have a bigger reason that you're doing this for money or for you, and if you can't see what you're really working towards, and if you can't snap out of these ruts that you're in, and you don't have people that are in your corner that are willing to help you and to have uncomfortable conversations with you and to be kind rather than just nice. Kind means they truly want the best for you. Nice is, I don't want to hurt your feelings. If you don't have people in your corner that are willing and able to do that, find them. You need them. So make sure, if you're here, like, first order of business is have a vision. Know what's possible. Stop thinking that everyone else can do it, but you can't, because you can. But you have to believe that first. And if you have trouble believing that, you have to have someone that is able to believe it and help you see it. And it might be a process, and just be aware of that. But I'm serious. Like, this stuff matters. All of us on this call, anyone watching, unless you've been in business for 5 whole minutes, know that the mindset of the owner is one of the most important things. It's tough. It's tough because there's days where it feels like everything's falling apart. And you still need to figure out how to show up. And the best way to do that is when you believe there's a future where things are not the way they are right now. So find that future, find that vision. That's key. I would really suggest reading books. If you are a religious person or spiritual, like, read the Bible, go to church. Like, you need to start believing in things and get used to expanding your view and having a bigger view. That's one of the biggest, most important things here. And then let's talk about tactics on what we can actually do, because I know that's the thing y'all thought you were here for, which it is, but I needed to throw that mindset portion in because it just matters. And we can't avoid it. We can't not talk about that. But tactically, the big thing that I personally think can most effectively get someone from level 1 to level 2 is documentation. I know that we were hoping for a big reveal, but it's not always fun. But it can be very beneficial, can be good. So when I say documentation, there are things, even at this level, that are working. How are you getting jobs, even if you don't have as many jobs as you want? Are you a referral-based business? Why do you think people give you referrals? Do you ever get jobs from Facebook? Do you ever get this? We need to figure out, what are the playbooks that I have? How can I take what has worked, even if it's not as much as I want, and turn that into a repeatable process? How can I stop making the business dependent on my emotional state. Once again, why mindset matters. So processes. Processes around growth and client experience. I am very biased, but I think the most effective processes around growth are going to be, how can we get more jobs in the areas we are already working? Why? Because that's leverage. And then how can we get more referrals from who we are working with? Also leverage. If you can confidently be in a situation where every job leads to your next, and then you can document how you do that, all of a sudden there's some strategies and some ways that maybe everything doesn't rely on you anymore. So I'm going to be a broken record for as long as this remains relevant, which is for the foreseeable future of the roofing industry. Getting flagged down by a neighbor when you're at an inspection or build to inspect their roof, and having a strong, developed, predictable process for getting referrals is going to be among the most effective ways that you can ensure that your business is always growing. And guess what? It becomes exponential, because if you turn one job into another and then another job into another, you finally start actually hitting an exponential hockey stick growth curve, which you can't do without massive amounts of investment or luck when it comes to advertising or SEO or Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever. This is one of the most effective ways that you can do this in a leveraged way that is not pure effort or investment driven. I also like this because I believe it keeps the main thing the main thing. And what do I mean by that? You have to have a great customer experience, a clean job site, good workmanship, respectable crews, etc. if you want to consistently have neighbors and referrals. If you don't have those things, then there's very low chance that it's going to work. So you get to really focus as much as possible on client experience, and then think, how can client experience translate to me getting in front of the neighbors? Is the homeowner my only client? Are other people affected by this? Yes, they are. How can I show them how important client experience and communication and cleanliness and my job site and production, how can I show them how important that is to me in a way that will give them trust and confidence that maybe I'm the right person for them to hire for their project? It's a really, really nice thing, because most likely, if you're here, this is already kind of your main focus. It's kind of what you got. You're doing your best, and most of your stress and anxiety, in addition to where's the next job coming from, which takes away from your ability to be present and provide the best experience possible. But what you'd like to do is make sure that the jobs are going incredibly smoothly. That's probably what you want to do, though you feel like the business needs you to focus on how are you going to get the next job? How are you going to get the next leads? And when you're in that state, it's tough. So this allows you to kind of reframe yourself and get back to keeping the main thing the main thing. Once you have these processes in place, once we have repeatable ways to get more jobs in the areas that we're working and more referrals from who we're working with, and dive into the trainings. I'm not going to cover all that right now because there's trainings on that you all have access to if you're in here. So 4 growth engines, referral systems, all of it, we cover it over and over again exhaustively. But this gets you back here. And once you have this, all of a sudden you can start delegating getting a team, and everything doesn't require you thinking. I also would suggest like a CRM as like a simple way that you can make sure that you're getting a little more organized. Like it's not that difficult to set up a basic CRM. It's also not that difficult to set up basic automations and little things. Today, we are blessed to have closed and brought on 2 new clients. And all I had to do was move them into a new pipeline that says, welcome email. From there, everything that needed to happen happened. They got a welcome email, they got their contract. My team got a notification to add them to a group chat on Slack, which is a software we use for client communication. We also had a way to get them set up and onboarded. Once they fill out the contract, that's automatically saved in the right place. It's all easy. And I promise you guys, like, while it would be fun to be like, yeah, I'm a genius, I'm just not. Like, I know I'm not. So I know if I can do it, you can do it. I like to think I have a few tricks up my sleeve, but it's not because I'm just like some whiz. Just sit down, concentrate, and get this stuff organized and put some thought into it. Go back to getting the main thing. If you thought the only way I'm ever going to get business again is I have to get jobs right around where I'm already working and I have to get referrals and nothing else is allowed, that's a good frame to think of this from. And it will kind of make you think like, okay, well, if those are the only options, what would I do? And then also watch a lot of our trainings. Like I give a lot away for free. Just watch them. Level 2, the growing roofing business. Good place to be. You're getting good. You all of a sudden have some processes. This stuff started to work. You're through the trees. Okay, we're not in a terrible place. You have your first few salespeople. We're working hard to try to keep them accountable. Maybe they still are asking you a lot of questions. You still feel like you're pretty needed, but you all of a sudden are able to work from home sometimes. You don't have to be in the field all the time. You are not stressed about where your next job's going to come from. Sorry, cracked my lip. But this is a good place to be. Like you're going to feel so much relief going from level 1 to level 2. But after a while, you're going to realize that you still have a job. But instead of your boss being some random person in an office, your boss becomes your team, your clients. And it gets a little bit crazy because like everything still comes to you. You are still the bottleneck in some way. You probably are intense culture here. Right now, your culture probably is kind of forming. It's a little baby. It's fragile. It's not established yet. So the biggest thing we can do here is how can we begin figuring out how to make sure that we're not just stalling and that we're able to continue to develop the team, develop the processes, make them more predictable, get better at data, have your CRM, automate more, bring on key players, make sure you have an admin person, make sure no one's a runner other than someone who's hired specifically to be a runner, because that will waste a whole day if you or a salesperson has to run material all day. How can we find ways to add leverage not only to you, but to every piece of the system? How can we optimize here? That is really going to be the main focus. And as you're focusing on this, you want to keep on building and scaling. You don't want to stall. You need to make sure there's action and momentum and excitement within the company, because when you don't have an incredibly strong culture, that will be a very good bridge to building one. That will be a good way to kind of maintain that great attitude. But this is where you need to get really clear. You, as the owner, your job is to shout from the rooftops over and over and over and over again what matters. And once again, honestly, it goes back to this, keeping the main thing the main thing. I do not like when people say a roofing company is really just a sales and marketing company. And there's some big roofing companies that say that and think like that and think that's what it is. But that's like, I don't think that's very true, or I don't think it should be, or at least I think it's simplified. And this is coming from a sales and marketing person. It really matters how good of a product you put on. It really matters how carefully you install the roof and think through what you're putting on someone's roof. It really, really matters that you have the right people and that everyone's very respectful and polite on the job site. It really, really matters that you keep things cleaned and contained. Like that stuff matters. That never should stop being the main thing. In fact, as you grow, what you'll see is companies who do lose sight of what matters, and then they don't have good experiences. Their homeowners don't really like them that much, and they start getting bad reviews and things become difficult because they're just in it for the money. And really, they're in it for the status. And that doesn't create the best culture, or at least it's a fragile culture. That's a culture of, hey, this person's going to leave the moment they have a better opportunity. That's a culture of, hey, we are one or two bad decisions away from this beast of a company going under because we made some bad financial decisions. So this is something where you need to be careful. In this case, at level 2, the focus needs to be, how can I scale excellence? How can I scale an incredible customer experience? How can I make sure that is the reason we're growing? How can I be a referral-based business and also get to 10 million, $15 million? What does that look like? We need to make sure that this, which creates what I call, and if you were on the training a couple weeks ago, when I went through the flywheel, it's not an original concept, like that's the flywheel, where every job turns into job, promotion, leads, appointments, customers, promotion. And when I say this right here, that's getting referrals and getting more jobs from the neighbors. This right here, same thing. And guess what happens? Repeat. It keeps going. If you can make sure this is happening because you're giving an excellent experience over and over and over again, this is where things can be good. And you just need to obsessively talk and make sure every person on your team knows this is why we do it. We are not just trying to get sales. We are not just trying to make sure that we get a job for every job we're doing. That's an amazing outcome of keeping the main thing the main thing. But that shouldn't be the reason that you're doing it generally. It's okay to work and be excited about the outcomes, but we also need to trust the process. And the process is giving someone a great experience, making sure that the neighbors know that you care about them as stakeholders of the project, making sure they know and feel that you also understand that they have needs as well, even though they haven't entered into an agreement with you. And you're trying to make sure that you see and show that they know that you care. That's an intangible thing. No one else had the opportunity to show them. And if you can show them that, just trust that it will get you additional opportunities, because it will. We can have marketing within it. We want to do everything we can to make sure that the promotion of the job site we're getting as much attention to the job site as possible, but we also want to convert any potentially negative attention to positive attention by keeping the main thing the main thing. It's like you can't just give a great experience and then that's all. Like we still have to be intentional and sophisticated about it, but it does allow you to focus on what really matters and what should matter, but what honestly your competition is less concerned about, which is why you have an opportunity to win over and over and over again. And when you create a culture where everything you do is making sure that everyone has a great experience with you and that you're obsessed with taking care of people, homeowners, even people that didn't sign on, the neighbors are just as important as the person who signed up with you. It's your responsibility to make sure their experience is thought about just as much as the person who signed on with you. If that's the thing that you as the owner and as the leader say over and over and over again, and you make sure that anytime you sniff out that that's not the focus of someone, that they know that's not okay and you correct them. And if you need to correct them again, you exit them from your organization. That's when a real culture begins taking life. That's when you go from baby culture to, okay, this culture's driving things. So this is a lot about how you are leading and a lot about how you are thinking about growing your business. Honestly, you want growth to be an outcome. Growth isn't the goal, growth is the outcome. Outcome of what, though? Making sure that every single person who interacts with your brand and your company is better off for it. Making sure that they know that you care, and then you caring genuinely, and making sure your team cares genuinely, and making sure that that's the person that you're hiring, someone that cares genuinely. That is how you go from level 2 to level 3, by building this culture and making sure it comes alive. And that is by repetition. So in this scenario, you might be in a situation where you have some leads coming in, the storms kind of gave you a good push, you maybe were knocking doors, you're probably getting good referrals. This is when everything you do, this part is becomes ingrained. This is when you shift from survival mode to the reason that you're doing this is to make sure it's bigger than just money. This shift is important, and it's something that is difficult if you're just not the person that can do that. So it really becomes a situation where you can get a level 2 roofing business to be huge, and you can systematize and create processes and all of that and get to what appears to be level 3. Or you can get lucky and your team and your managers can create a culture that is awesome. And that could have just been luck. But a way to kind of mechanize and make sure this is happening is by making sure that you go from, okay, process, team-driven growth, for the most part, you're out of the weeds, but you still are involved. Now we begin trying to delegate it further. We try to make sure we're finding people that are going to take ownership. We make sure that we are confident that this process, any person on our team that is out there in the field is able to execute on this with the right intention. Then we can pour some fuel on the fire, have some additional cash, have some additional opportunity. At that point, you begin hiring leadership, you hire managers, you promote from within people that are excellent displays of the culture that you're building. At that point, you can move to level 3, which is the scalable scaling roofing business. This business runs like a machine because it really has its own life. Your team owns the processes because the culture is managing them as much, if not more, than you or any manager needs to. Marketing's predictable because the way you're getting your business is ingrained in who people are, who your team is, the fabric of them. They can't not do this. You just have an easy step-by-step for them to maximize these qualities, but these qualities You didn't create. You just found the people and attracted the people that are able to be that. And you are able to give the people that maybe had a level one life or a level one career, and you are able to help them see and believe that keeping the main thing, and having a vision and being able to see through the trees or whatever that phrase is, you are able to get them to see that as well. And that's when you really are able to start developing leaders. And your role becomes, you can focus on like strategic growth initiatives and stuff like that. But for the most part, you're focusing on leadership and developing leaders. You can go from level one to level three in a year, but also it's not necessarily something that you can just say, this is going to happen in a year, no matter what. You have to have the right mindset. You have to have the right philosophies. You have to have the right views, the right goals. When you pour fuel on the fire, you know every job is worth multiple, then you can spend money on marketing, but you don't want your Google ad campaign to be the driver of growth. You don't want the fact that you have a big budget or the fact that you can turn one job into a few like that to be the reason. You want to make sure the reason remains the main thing, which is you're here to make sure everyone has a great experience with you. You want to make sure you're putting on the best roof possible because you care about these homeowners. You care about the neighbors because you care about people and you understand how life is. And you don't want to be a nuisance to them. You don't want to be categorized improperly. You want to make sure that you're giving rather than taking and lifting people up rather than annoying them or parking in an area they don't want you to park. So this level three, when you're here, you have a lot of options. And level three is absolutely something that people can get to without all that I said. Like truly, you can get to the point where you aren't really needed. For the most part, your business runs like a machine. Your team kind of owns the processes. Marketing's predictable, leads, referrals, and customers are coming in. You're free to focus on leadership. You can do that. But for the most part, it will be fragile unless the reason, like the fabric of your company and the culture of your company is what is driving the growth. And the culture of your company needs to be beneficial to your clients and your community. And it's not just about making jobs, though that matters. But it's what is something that's much bigger than you and your company that y'all stand for and that y'all are working to do. And it doesn't have to be, we're trying to give this much to charity, though I would love to hear that and I'd welcome that. It doesn't mean to need to be like, I have a customer that's fantastic and they just happen to uh, plant a tree for every roof they do, which I think is really cool. But if you talk to any individual on their team, that's not what makes them different. What makes them different is they are actively every day trying to make sure that every person they interact with is better off for it. They're not pushy salespeople. They wouldn't even know how to be if they needed to be. But they will ensure that people are taken care of. And if them being taken care of means they need a roof, they may push a little bit, but you know, for the most part, their whole reason, their purpose, what they're trying to do is making sure that their business is running in a way and the team is trying to make sure that they're interacting with people and working with people in a way where everyone's left off better. And that company, by the way, that company has, I went to a sales meeting and they were reflecting on the first sales meeting of their year. And they were reflecting on the fact that they had everyone in the room was there the previous year other than one person. That's rare, by the way. I don't know how long different people have been here, but that's rare. So I know this was kind of like almost like a sermon style training, but I hope it was valuable and I hope it gets you excited about what's possible, because at the end of the day, anyone who's on this, anyone who's watching this, growing your business doesn't need to be just numbers and math and all of that, though you can't ignore that stuff. Like, you have to understand how that stuff plays a role. But what you want your business growth to be, and what you want the way that your business is running and operating to be, is you want to be working towards this. And when you're working towards this, I really want to encourage you, like, if your culture is based on things that benefit the world, everyone you touch, the people around you, the individuals, like, that stuff is what is going to scale, and that's the stuff that's going to be able to take a life of its own and get you in a position to where you really have built something incredible that lasts. Because even if, God forbid, the company went under, everyone who worked with you was able to create a ripple effect. And that ripple effect is going to continue. So I appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you bearing with me. Let me know if it was valuable. I'd appreciate a post in Skool, just kind of on your insights, or even just saying, hey, yep, that was good. If you hated it, message me and let me know. But you can post about it too. I won't delete it, but I hope that no one did. But just let us know, and let's get people to these next calls. If you thought this was valuable, try to get some FOMO out there for people who missed it, because I really am here. I want to make sure that anyone who comes to these is getting a really good ROI on their time and is able to leave with new thoughts, new ideas, new perspectives that will allow them to grow their business, be better family members, be better leaders, and be in a good position. So I appreciate you guys. Take care. Go crush the rest of the week. And if you need anything at all, or if you want to talk about how we could work together, just shoot me a message on Skool or reach out however you need to. There's links all over Skool to book a call. See you guys. Bye.